The simple life is not so simple. We live our lives, and when we make our plans, we want the world to be predictable. But change is the only constant. Our brains contain thoughts and emotions, but they exist in this snarl of synapses. There are no roads that do not wind and twist. It's hard to get straight answers. Sometimes opposite things seem to be true. We are individuals, yet we are one. Life is important, yet temporary. Race does not exist biologically, yet racism is a social reality. Before we live the dream of harmony, the real nightmare of our past must be addressed. Peacemaking is often interpreted as appeasement and an invitation to war. And war cannot be stopped without fighting. But fighting for peace is like promiscuity for the cause of celibacy. We are told to be likable while not worrying what other people think. We are to help those who depend upon us without making them dependent. We are to love ourselves, but not be narcissistic. To have self-esteem, but not be selfish. And parenthood is the ultimate paradox. Raising children not to need you. Loving and letting go. Protecting them as they explore their freedom. Wanting them to listen to you as you teach them to question authority. Romance is also fraught with paradox. At weddings, I have often read this poem by Khalil Gibran. You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Ah, ye shall be together even in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but each one of you be alone, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. The very universe is paradoxical. Newton's laws of cause and effect made the world make sense for me. Every action had an equal and opposite reaction. But as we looked at a very large inner universe and the very tiny microverse, the rules began to break down. Quantum theory reveals that the particles that make up reality act differently than the reality that is easily observed. Particles exist in a quantum state. They simultaneously are at every possible position. They only become one reality when we observe them. And different observers can create different realities. Physicist Edwin Erwin Schrödinger used the following metaphor to explain it. If you put a cat in a box with some radiation that has a 50% chance of killing it, when the box is closed, we do not know if the cat is alive or dead. It is as if both experiences exist as once. Opening the box lets us know one reality or the other. The act of opening the box makes multiple possibilities collapse into one. And Dr. Heisenberg introduced a principle of uncertainty. We can know the position of an electron or the speed, but not both. The act of measuring one prevents the observation of the other. Paradox is present whenever we do not have enough information, and two opposite things appear to be true. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, "A test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function." We need to live our truths to the best of our understanding. We need to be decisive, yet know that all decisions are provisional. We be ready to change our mind. Choose one direction, knowing that soon you'll have to adjust your course. Or in the words of your car's computer, recalculating. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines. With consistency, a great soul has simply nothing to do. He may well concern himself with his shadow on the wall. Speak what you think now in hard words, and tomorrow speak what tomorrow thinks in hard words again, though contradict everything said today. Ah, so you shall be sure to be misunderstood. Is it so bad, then, to be misunderstood? Pythagoras was misunderstood, and Socrates, and Jesus, and Luther, and Copernicus, and Galileo, and Newton, and every pure and wise spirit that ever took flesh. To be great is to be misunderstood." But if we really lived as Emerson suggests, the only consistency in our lives would be the need to say, "Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time." Walt Whitman seemed to have a quantum understanding of himself when he said, "Do I contradict myself? Well, very well, I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes." These men are often lauded as geniuses for merely doing what women are accused of. It's a woman's prerogative to change her mind. Proverb, Wit, and Wisdom, a quote book compiled by Louis Berman, attributes this phrase to someone named Drakes in the year 1616. So that was much before Whitman and Emerson, the idea that, yes, you have to change your mind. It is all of our prerogatives. In a competitive world, we are told it's good to have ambition, but not blind ambition. We are to stop and smell the roses along the way. As I approach retirement, it is my ambition to dilly-dally. If I fail to reach that goal, I might accidentally do something constructive. George Carlin offers this paradox. If you try to fail and succeed, What have you done? Religion has often used the language of paradox to point us to a truth beyond the facts. Jesus told his disciples, "If any man would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake shall find it." Hinduism says something similar in the Srimad Bhagavatam. "Seek not for a life on heaven or earth. Thirst for life is delusion. Knowing life to be transitory, wake up from this dream of ignorance and strive to attain knowledge and freedom." But knowledge and freedom itself is paradoxical. Islam says of God in the Quran, "No vision can grasp him, but his grasp is over all vision. He is above all comprehension, yet acquainted with all things." And Taoism offers a paradox to the way we live. Let's read this book, the Tao Te Ching, because it will describe the way. And we're told in the first chapter, good luck with that. The way that can be spoken of is not the eternal way. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless was the beginning of the heavens and earth. And the Greeks also struggled with the paradox of knowledge. Meno said, "And how will you inquire into a thing when you are wholly ignorant of what it is? Even if you happen to bump right into it, how will you know it is the thing you didn't know?" Socrates rephrased the paradox this way: "A man cannot search either for what he knows or for what he does not know. He cannot search for what he knows. Since he knows it, there's no need to search. Nor for what he does not know, for he does not know what to look for." As humans evolved, we learned the scientific method, a way to test our knowledge. And some hoped that we would escape mystery and paradox. But 20th century scientist Nikola Tesla lamented, "It's paradoxical, yet true to say, that the more we know, the more ignorant we become in the absolute sense. For it is only through enlightenment that we become conscious of our limitations." Today, the world faces a crisis. How do we stop the aggression of Russia versus Ukraine? To do nothing rewards that aggression. And how do we claim morality when our country has made the same mistake as Russia? In fact, we even copied them in invading Afghanistan. We could use force, and that might stop Russia, but it might also lead to nuclear annihilation. And the proverbs of religion seem empty. You have heard that it was said, "You should love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I say to you, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you. And Buddhism, conquer anger by love, conquer evil by good, conquer the stingy by generosity, conquer the liar by truth. Now, I know there was a thing that was on the web of an elderly woman giving a Russian soldier sunflower seeds. And that seems like a nice, gentle response to someone invading your country. But what she said revealed that it wasn't so generous. She said, "Put these in your pocket so when you die, sunflowers will grow on your grave." This tidbit from the Islamic tradition might give us a practical way to live the paradox. The Hadith of Bukhari says, according to Anas, after the messenger of God said, "Help your brother, whether he is oppressor or oppressed," Anas replied to him, "O messenger of God, a man who is oppressed, I am ready to help. But how does one help an oppressor? By hindering him from doing wrong." And that has largely been the Western response so far. We have mostly gone after the money that supports the war, rather than fighting the war ourselves. But we do not know whether this will work. If we are strict with our pacifist principles, which is where I lean, we all know that Russia will collapse like all empires. We could just let them overextend themselves until they collapse. But how many deaths am I willing to sacrifice to this high principle? Not as many as it would take. But if we violate the principles of peace, we may cause even more death. We know that war leads to more war. In the Buddhist scripture, the Dhammapada, it reads, "Victory breeds hatred, for the defeated live in pain. Happily live the peaceful, giving up victory and defeat." And Taoism offers a philosophy. Water is fluid, soft and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. As a rule, whatever is fluid, soft, and yielding will overcome whatever is rigid and hard. This is another paradox. What is soft is strong. What is the water needed to wear down these hard times? We're all called to do what we can without a guarantee of success. And some ask, why should we worry about what authoritarians are doing on the other side of the world? We face the same crisis here in our own country. The right to vote, civil rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, free speech are all under attack. We're living on an edge. And we must be bold in trying new things, and we must forgive ourselves and others because mistakes will be made. We dedicate ourselves to making things better, but do we even know what better is? We just hope that we will recognize it when we see it. But life experience tells me that when I achieve something good, I will get used to the good. And the good will be some boring normal that needs to be abandoned as I seek the better. We get bored and abandon what we once thought was great. We fear change when we like the status quo. And we want change when we feel oppressed. But change will come whether we like it or not. Let us know that the trials of the current age will pass, and the result will not be perfect, even if we like it at the time. Think of being swept away in a flood. To swim against the current is suicide. You cannot go with the flow, or you'll be dashed on the rocks. We need to learn how to swim diagonally with the flow, exercising what little control we have until we reach a place of safety. We balance between resistance and cooperation, order and chaos, freedom and bondage, hope and despair, optimism and pessimism. We seek balance. And when I hear the word balance, my mind goes to a meditation class where people are sitting quietly and getting in touch with their inner life. But maybe balance isn't so restful. Maybe balance is really like a tightrope. The walker must simultaneously be focused and unfocused. To focus on the dangerous possibilities, like that is a very thin rope and that's a long way down, will only make one too nervous to complete the task. The walker needs to focus on the rope, and I've noticed that they focus with their feet. Their eyes are looking straight ahead. And then the balance pole. The balance pole is like the paradox that we carry with us. It has these extremes on either end, and we're holding the middle. And somehow the counterweight of these extremes holds us in place. Paradox is like that balancing pole. It is something that seems counterintuitive. If I'm going to walk across the wire, why should I carry this large object that seems like it will only make the task harder? But we walk the tightropes of our lives carrying these paradoxes because it reminds us of where we don't want to be. We don't want to be way over there or way over there. We want to be on the rope as we walk through, finding a balance, finding a way to move forward and live with paradox. May we bless and be blessed.